Hello, dear students. Hope you all are safe and fine and very eager to study today's lesson. Today we shall study lesson 10 of science, that is respiration in organisms for class 7th. But before we begin with the lesson, I would like to ask you some questions related to the chapter and you try to answer these questions. So children, my first question for you is, what are all living beings made up of? Yes, the correct answer for this is that all living beings are made up of cells. My next question, can you children tell me some of the features of the living beings? Most probably you would answer that all living beings can move from one place to another, can breathe, grow and can respire. Children, just now we have discussed that all living beings breathe. But then the question which arises is that why do all living beings breathe? And you all must have experienced that we start breathing heavily or rapidly in case we have to run. Children, have you ever wondered why it happens so? In fact, breathing is a part of respiration. In our today's lesson, we will try to answer all these questions. So, today we will learn that why do we respire? Then we will study what is breathing. Next, how do we breathe? And towards the end of the lesson, we will study about breathing in other animals. First of all, let us discuss why do we breathe. All organisms are made up of small microscopic units called cells. A cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. Each cell of an organism performs certain functions such as nutrition, transportation, excretion, and reproduction. To perform these functions, the cells need energy. Even when we are eating, sleeping, or reading, we require energy. But children, where does this energy come from? The energy stored in food is released during respiration. Therefore, all living organisms need to respire to get energy. During breathing, we breathe in air. We all know that air contains oxygen. In the cells, this oxygen helps in the breakdown of food. And children, this process of breakdown of food in the cell with the release of energy is called cellular respiration. In the cell, the food or the glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide and water using oxygen. When breakdown of glucose occurs with the use of oxygen, it is called aerobic respiration. Food can also be broken down without oxygen. This is called anaerobic respiration. Some organisms, such as yeast, can survive even in the absence of air, and they are called as anaerobes. They get energy through anaerobic respiration. In the absence of oxygen, glucose breaks down into alcohol and carbon dioxide, as we have shown you in this equation. Glucose breaks down into alcohol and carbon dioxide in the absence of oxygen. Children, even our muscle cells can respire anaerobically, but only for a short time when there is temporary deficiency of oxygen. During heavy exercise, fast running, cycling, walking for many hours, or heavy weightlifting, the demand for energy is very high, but the supply of oxygen to produce the energy is limited. In such situations, anaerobic respiration takes place in the muscle cells to fulfill the demand of energy. Have you ever wondered why you get muscle cramps after heavy exercise? The cramps occur when muscle cells respire anaerobically. During this process, the partial breakdown of glucose produces lactic acid. The accumulation of this lactic acid causes muscle cramps. Do you know, children, that we get relief from the cramps after a hot water bath or a massage? This is because hot water bath or massage improves circulation of blood, which increases the supply of oxygen to the muscle cells. The increase in the supply of oxygen results in the complete breakdown of lactic acid into carbon dioxide and water. Let us now study about breathing. For this, I would like you to perform an activity as per the instructions. Close your nostrils and mouth tightly and look at a watch. Children, how long are you able to keep both of them closed? And what did you feel after some time? So children, I think this activity has made it very clear to you that we cannot survive for long without breathing. Breathing means taking in air rich in oxygen and giving out air rich in carbon dioxide. Taking in of oxygen-rich air is called inhalation, while giving out of air rich in carbon dioxide is known as exhalation. The number of times a person breathes in a minute is termed as the breathing rate. A single breath means one inhalation and one exhalation. You can also count your own breathing rate. For this, you come in a steady state or at rest position and count how many times you breathe in and breathe out in a minute. After this, you run for a little distance and as soon as you finish running, again count the number of times you breathe in and breathe out in a minute. You can even compare your readings with that of your friends. Generally, the breathing rate for an average adult at rest position is 15 to 18 times per minute, while it can increase to 25 times per minute if counted after an exercise. Whenever we exercise, we need extra energy. That means more oxygen is required. So, we start breathing faster. As a result, more oxygen is supplied to our cells. It speeds up the breakdown of food and more energy is released. Children, let us now study about the mechanism of breathing. Normally, we take in air through our nostrils. When we inhale air, it passes through our nostrils into the nasal cavity. And from here, through the windpipe, air reaches our lungs. Lungs are present in the chest cavity. This cavity is surrounded by ribs on both the sides and a large muscular sheet called the diaphragm forms the floor of the chest cavity. Breathing involves the movement of the diaphragm and the rib cage. During inhalation, ribs move up and outwards and diaphragm moves down. This increases the space in our chest cavity, due to which air rushes into the lungs. During exhalation, ribs move down and inwards, while diaphragm moves up to its former position. This reduces the size of the chest cavity and air is pushed out of the lungs. These movements can be felt easily in our body. To understand the mechanism of breathing, let us perform one activity. Children, the material that we will require for this activity is a thin sheet of rubber or plastic, a wide plastic bottle, 2 balloons, and a Y-shaped glass or plastic tube. Make a hole in the lid of the bottle so that the tube can pass through it. To the forked end of the tube, fix 2 deflated balloons. Now introduce the tube into the bottle as you are shown here. Now cap the bottle and seal it to make it airtight. To the open base of the bottle, tie a thin rubber or plastic sheet with the help of a large rubber band. To understand the expansion of the lungs, pull the rubber sheet from the base downwards and watch the balloons. Next, push the rubber sheet up and observe the balloons again. Did you notice any change in the balloons? Yes, you will observe that when we pull the rubber sheet downwards, the balloons inflate, and when we push the rubber sheets up, the balloons deflate. This means that when rubber sheet is pulled down, it increases the area of the plastic bottle and air pressure inside the bottle reduces as compared to the pressure outside the bottle. As a result, air from outside rushes in and inflates the balloons. On the other hand, when rubber sheet is pushed up, area of the plastic bottle is reduced. This increases the pressure inside the bottle. So, air is pushed out from the bottle, which deflates the balloons. In this activity, balloons represent our lungs and the rubber sheet works as the diaphragm. Somewhat similar mechanism takes place in our respiratory system also, which shows that up and down movement of the diaphragm is responsible for the movement of air in and out of our lungs. Let us now try to understand how breathing in other animals takes place. Animals such as elephants, lions, cows, goats, frogs, lizards, snakes, birds, etc. all have lungs in their chest cavity, just like the human beings. But there are many other organisms which do not have lungs to breathe. Then, how do these organisms breathe? Let us try to find out this. First of all, let us take the example of cockroaches. Cockroaches and other insects have small openings on the sides of their body called as the spiracles. Insects have a network of air tubes called trachea for gas exchange. Oxygen-rich air rushes through spiracles into the tracheal tubes, diffuses into the body tissue and reaches every cell of the body. Similarly, carbon dioxide from these cells goes into the tracheal tubes and moves out through spiracles. Next, let us see how breathing takes place in earthworms. Earthworms breathe through their skins. The skin of an earthworm feels moist and slimy on touching. Gases can easily pass through them. Let us now study how breathing occurs in animals that live in water. To understand this, let us take the example of fish. Children, you have already studied about the structures called gills found in the fish. The gills in fish help them to use oxygen dissolved in water. Gills are projections of the skin. You may wonder how gills help in breathing. Gills are well supplied with blood vessels, which help in exchange of gases. Let us also study the example of frogs and study how breathing takes place in frogs. Though frogs have a pair of lungs, they can also breathe through their skin. That means a frog can breathe through both its lungs and its skin. After this, let us also discuss about breathing in plants. Like all other living organisms, plants also respire for their survival. They take in oxygen from the air and give out carbon dioxide. In plant cell also, oxygen is used to break down glucose into carbon dioxide and water, as in other organisms. In plants, each part can independently take in oxygen from the air and give out carbon dioxide. Children, you already know that leaves of the plants have tiny pores called stomata. These help in exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Like all other living cells of plants, their root cells also need oxygen to generate energy. Roots take up air from the air spaces present between the soil particles. So, we conclude from this chapter that respiration is a vital biological process. All living organisms, animals as well as plants, need to respire to get the energy needed for their survival. Children, let us now quickly revise whatever we have learned in this chapter. Today we have learned that respiration is essential for the survival of all living organisms. It releases energy from the food. The respiration which occurs with the use of oxygen is called aerobic respiration, while the respiration which occurs without the use of oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. Increased physical activity enhances the rate of breathing. In animals like cow, buffalo, dog, and cat, the respiratory organs and the breathing process are similar to those in humans. In earthworms, the exchange of gases occurs through its moist skin. In fishes, it occurs through gills, and in insects through spiracles and trachea. Now I will ask you some questions related to this chapter, and children, I hope you will be able to answer them all correctly. So your first question is, fill in the blank spaces with the correct answer. First one, in cockroaches, air enters the body through dash. Yes, children, the correct answer is spiracles. In cockroaches, air enters the body through spiracles. Next one, tiny pores present on the surface of leaves are called dash. And the correct answer is stomata. The next one, normal range of breathing rate per minute in an average adult is dash. And the correct answer is that it is 15 to 18 times per minute. In your next question, you are given some options in the answer and you have to choose the correct answer from the given options. So your first one is, the air enters the body of a cockroach or any other insect through. Your options are A. lungs, B. spiracles, C. gills, and D. skin. I'm repeating the options: lungs, spiracles, gills, and skin. And the correct answer is spiracles. The next one: you get muscle cramps after heavy exercise due to the accumulation of, and your options are A. Carbon dioxide, B. Alcohol, C. Lactic acid, and D. Water. And the correct answer is lactic acid. In the next question, you have been given some statements and you have to tell whether the given statement is true or false. So the first statement is, increased physical exercise enhances the breathing rate. Yes, children, tell whether the statement is true or false. Yes, you are absolutely correct. The statement is true. Next statement, a frog can breathe only through its skin. Yes, this statement is false because a frog can breathe both through its lungs as well as through its skin. In the next question, you have to match the items given in column 1 with those in column 2. In column 1, some organisms are listed, and in column 2, their respiratory organs are mentioned, and you have to match them correctly. In column 1 are cockroach, earthworm, fish, humans. And in column 2, we have lungs, gills, trachea, and skin. Children, if you have read the options in column 1 and column 2 carefully, then now let us match the organisms with their correct respiratory organs. The cockroaches breathe through their trachea, earthworm through its skin, fish through gills, and the humans through lungs. In the last question, you are given an equation and you have to complete this equation. The equation is, glucose in the absence of oxygen produces dash and dash. Complete the equation and you have to fill in the given two blanks. And the answer is lactic acid and energy. That is, glucose in absence of oxygen produces lactic acid and energy. So with this we come to the end of our today's lesson, that is respiration in organisms. Hope you all have found this lesson interesting, meaningful and enjoyable. We will soon meet again with the next lesson. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.